we're back for the third time for our Bluey tier list. This is season 3, which is only 47 episodes so far. There's 3 more coming, one which is going to be a 28-minute special, which I'm excited for. But for now, as of the day I'm recording this, which is July 9th, this is all the episodes we have of Bluey, season 3. When this is going up, 10 of the episodes that we're missing that haven't been added to season 3 so far on Disney Plus are up. But yes, this will be going up. Today the day this will be going up is July 12th, which is the day 10 new episodes get added to Bluey. So, yeah. So we're celebrating by reviewing season 3 now. On top of the usual thing that I started doing with every episode last time was giving a brief description of each episode, like a brief little summary of each episode. For some reason, Disney Plus did a lot of censoring for the first half of Bluey season 3. There are 8 episodes which were censored that I counted looking through the Bluey wiki. So we're going to talk about those 8 episodes when we get to those 8 episodes, and we're going to talk about what was censored there. I think when they're adding the 10 new episodes, they're actually going to cut back on some of the censorship that they did. Because some of them was stupid. I'll say that. Some of it is stupid. Some of the censorship that they put in here. They put in here for no reason. But yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to that. And there's one that happened in part 3 of season 3 that was censored, but we'll talk about that when we get down to that episode. So let's begin with the first episode of season 3, which is listed as episode 14 on Disney Plus. Perfect. The kids are trying to make Father's Day cards for Bandit, but Bluey's worried about trying to make the most perfect one because she wants Bandit to put it on the fridge. Because there's like a flashback scene in there where Chili takes off Bluey's drawing from the fridge before she puts Bingo's up, because there's too much room on the fridge. And she wasn't trying to hurt Bluey's feelings, but she accidentally did because Bluey saw it. But yeah, this is the first episode with censorship. In the version that aired in Australia, the scene, in a flashback scene, Bandit and Fido are talking about something during when Bluey mentions playing Boomerang with Bandit, and in the Australian version, it's very heavily implied that Bandit's talking about getting a vasectomy. But in the version that aired on Disney Plus in the US, it's changed to Bandit getting his dog teeth removed. Which I guess, kind of makes a little sense. It's like, that's a weird topic just randomly put in the episode, just like, oh, he's trying to talk about getting a vasectomy, but you know what? It's fine. Didn't really change the episode. I think it's an okay episode. I think it's pretty good. And, this is the first time I'm actually mentioning episodes, airing out of order here, being a matter thing, but at the end of the episode, Bandit puts up a picture that Bluey draws at the end of it. And yeah, that picture is seen in a later episode, Omelette, but given that Perfect isn't on Disney Plus until episode 14, Omelette is first, and yeah, it just is weird. It's confusing. But Perfect goes first. I think the reason why that happened is because it was a Father's Day special, but yeah. Next up, bedroom. Bluey and Bingo decide to get separate bedrooms, but Bluey can't deal with not being able to sleep in the same room as Bingo and tries to communicate with her. And by the end of the episode, they go back into the same bedroom because they love each other too much to be in different bedrooms. It's an okay one. I'd probably put it right here, right behind Perfect. Perfect is so far the highest one so far, but let me tell you, that's gonna change. This season includes my favorite episode of Bluey, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, this was an okay episode. Honestly, it's not one I look forward to when I watch season 3, but yeah, it's fine. It's an okay one. Obstacle course. Bluey wants to beat Bandit in an obstacle course that that Chili created. Because Bandit doesn't want Bluey to beat him because Bandit just sucks at like taking losses. Bandit just sucks at that. And at the end of the episode, uh Bluey's about to win the obstacle course, but Bandit like grabs her and throws her back so he can win, and it's like, wow, he cannot take losing at all to a little kid. But yeah, I think it's better than Bedroom. I think it's a good one. But you know what? Perfect is still better. This is weird how it's like all lined up so far. But yeah, promises. After Bandit breaks a promise with Bluey, Bandit and Bluey promise to always accept promises, and then that kind of backfires because they kind of mess up, because they kind of use the promises against each other, and then they realize that promises are supposed to build trust, not, hurt people. And there's a scene at the end which is adorable where Bandit's like, I'll promise to love you always to his kids while they're asleep, and that's adorable. I think also this episode has a guest star from, there's a duo of people that do a Bluey podcast, Gotta Be Done, I think is what it's called. And they guest starred in this episode as 2 characters in the episode. So that's pretty cool. This one's probably right there, I'd say, in the it's okay. Like I said, we're gonna get better. You just gotta wait. But yeah, I'd put it right there in the it's okay. Omelet. It's Bandit's birthday, and Chili is making an omelet for him for breakfast in bed, but Bingo wants to help, and she's not really the best help. But yeah, Bingo tries to help out with the omelet, but she like screws up multiple times. I mean, she's what, 5 years old in the series now? She's not trying to. She's just a little kid. She's just trying to have fun. But in the end, they do end up making an omelet together, even though it has a couple eggshells in it. And yeah, I think honestly I'd put it here-ish, right in front of Bedroom. I don't know, it wasn't such a big one in my opinion. It was just kind of bland, sort of. But yeah, you know what? They're not all winners. Born Yesterday is our second episode on here that has censorship. We'll talk about that in a second. But Born Yesterday, Bluey and Bingo want their dad to act like he was born yesterday, and chaos ensues as Bandit goes throughout the day, believing it's his second day on planet Earth. And this episode's fun to watch. I love this episode. It's a real fun one to watch. The censorship comes in during when Bandit is learning about swings, and he pushes Bingo on the swing. And in the Australian version, he gets hit in the groin and collapses. In the Disney Plus version, that's just removed. That scene is just completely cut from the episode. And it's weird. But I guess I get it. Although, to be fair, the episode Sleepy Time literally had Bandit getting kicked right in the nuts by Bingo, so I don't know. I like this one. This is probably my favorite one we've done so far. I like Born Yesterday. It's a fun one to watch. It's a really fun one. Oh, we have 2 censorships in a row. We'll talk about that in a second. But Mini Bluey, after Bandit wishes his kids were the same, Bluey and Bingo come up with the idea to make Bingo a Mini Bluey. After which, then they switch it up to where Bluey becomes Big Bingo. And then there's a scene I don't like in the episode where Bandit says along the lines of, "Ooh, double bingo, I can get used to this," claiming that, like, Bluey is annoying and that he could get used to them being there being 2 bingos, because Bingo is a much more nicer child, I guess, not more crazy than Bluey. And Bluey gets upset and runs away, and Bandit never apologizes in this. In fact, after Bingo and Bluey run away, he doubles down on it by telling Chili, like, "No, but seriously, how does double bingo sound?" And then Chili agrees with him, and then they counteract this at the end, where he doesn't apologize. All he says is, "Okay, we want 1 Bluey and 1 Bingo." Like, he never apologizes, and that ticks me off. But the censorship comes in after this, where after Bingo tells Bluey that she can be annoying too, she puts in a fake set of teeth, and then we see her, and then Bluey is like, "Oh, you look crazy." That's just cut in the Disney Plus version, but that's just in Australia, so it, like, actually builds up the suspense to showing what Bingo looks like. But it's just weird that it's cut. And I'm sorry, but I like this episode, but I don't know how high I can put it. I'm probably gonna put it right in the middle of here right now, just because of the way Bandit and Chili act in this episode. It kind of just felt off character for Bandit to say that and then not even apologize whatsoever. Unicorse is definitely going to love it. This is one of my favorite episodes of all time. In this episode, Bluey can't get to sleep, so Chili decides to read her a story. But Bandit joins in on the story with a hand puppet named Unicorse that is just annoying and is just fun. And Unicorse became one of my favorite characters of the entire show, just from this and another episode. I love Unicorse. He's a unicorn horse, which is just a unicorn, but still. And he's a fun character, and this is also, like, the one time where, like, someone's like, I think Chili's like, "This episode, unfortunately, is titled Unicorse." It's like she actually expresses opinion on the title. But yeah, this one's in the love it. I love this one too much. It's a fun episode. Curry Quest. This would be the obligatory moment where I tell you that this is my favorite episode of Bluey. Except that opinion has changed. And we'll get into my favorite episode later down this list. But yeah, let's talk about Curry Quest. In this episode, Bingo goes on a curry swap with Bandit to Mackenzie's house, and along the way learns the story of a hero's journey. And the reason why this episode is my favorite for the longest time is halfway through the episode, Mackenzie reveals to Bingo that she's going to the airport because his Bandit has to leave for 6 weeks on an archaeology trip because he's an archaeologist. And then Bingo gets upset because she doesn't want to see her dad go. Stuff ensues with Mackenzie's mom. Bingo gets over it. And then after facing the final challenge, there's a montage at the end that shows the 6 weeks of Bandit leaving and being gone and everything going on, and that always makes me cry. The part at the very end when Bandit comes back home and Bingo hugs him after not seeing him for 6 weeks is just, that part really just hits me right in the feels. It's hard I'm actually gonna move up Born Yesterday. It is hard to watch that episode without crying, because it's such a good episode. And it used to be my favorite, but there is an episode later in season 3 we'll be talking about which is my favorite. But for now, that's Curry Quest. It's the first one so far. Magic. Bluey teaches Bingo all about magic, but forgets the one rule of not using it to be naughty, and uses it to try and force Bandit and Pat to play games with Bingo. But Chili intervenes, and chaos ensues. It's a nice little fun one. I'd probably put it just in the it's okay. Probably about, like, right here. It's a nice one. It's got cool scenery as, like, there's, like, a storm going on in the episode, so it makes the episode look cooler throughout it. It's a nice one. I like it. It's okay. Chess. Bandit is trying to teach Bluey and Bingo how to play chess, but they're a little too young. And he wants to teach them that because he doesn't want them... He wants them to grow up and be smart. But he doesn't realize that, they're... At the time, I think in the episode, they're 6 and 5, because Bluey ages up in the episode past the parcel. But yeah, he doesn't understand that, but he wants his kids to be smart. And as much as I do like that message, it's probably my least favorite so far. This one's a boring one, in my opinion. I do like the message, but it's definitely not one that I look forward to watching. But it's got a good message, I'll say that. It's got a really good message. Sheepdog is immediately going into a favorites. Chili needs time alone from the kids after an exhausting day, so Bandit takes over and tries to distract the kids by playing Sheepdog. And it's got such a crazy part in it, where, like, Chili's been stressed out throughout the day because, the kids can be a little bit too much sometimes. And after Bandit takes over, Bluey gets upset, thinking that her mom doesn't like her, that her mom doesn't want children. But, like, it's Wendy, the character that's always been kind of like the stuck-up parent, that comes in and tells Bluey that's not true. She just needs time to relax, because kids can be a handful. And it's a good message, and I love it. I love the message. It is one I definitely look forward to watching every time. It's a nice one. Housework. We're back into the censorship episodes. The family is doing housework, but Bandit and Chili can't stop watching the kids walking weird throughout the house. Yeah. In, like, a later scene in the episode, Bingo does this weird walk, and Bandit and Chili try to replicate it. They call it the B-Oop walk. And this is where the censorship comes in. The scene where Bandit jumps and does the spin and pulls his groin, that is just, like, cut in the English version versus the Australian version. Now, when I say these censorships have happened, I think it's been confirmed that Disney is going to be a little bit loose now on the censorship. I think they're going to go back and change it, which I'm guessing that's going to happen when the 10 episodes come out. But yeah, these were still censored. Okay. Thanks for turning off, speaker. Yeah, this one is fun to watch. I'd say it's probably there. It's a fun one to watch. It's a real nice one to watch. Pass the Parcel is just immediately going in the love it again. I love this episode. So, during one of the kids' birthdays, Pat notices that they're playing a game called Pass the Parcel, where there's a present in every layer, but he remembers a version where there's multiple layers, but only one big present. So he tries it out at, I think it's Chucky's birthday. And all the kids don't like it, except for one who wins the prize. And then suddenly this trend keeps getting passed on to birthday after birthday of kids wanting to play it Lucky's dad's way. But there's the whole thing with Bingo in the episode where she's keeps losing. And at first she gets upset, but then when Leela wins, suddenly her attitude has changed to where, like, you know what? She's fine with losing, because she'll win one day, she feels like. And she does. And it's a fun episode. I love watching it. Sorry. Any episode with Pat in it is just a treat. So yeah, it is in the Love It. You're going to see a lot of episodes from Season 3 in the Love It, because I love a lot of Season 3. Explorers is our next episode with censorship. Jack is trying to navigate his way on boat to Australia. They're playing a game at school. Meanwhile, his dad is trying to navigate his way back to Jack's school after his sat-nav goes out. And yeah, the censorship comes in, and this is the weirdest censorship I think that has happened so far, and out of all the episodes, it makes no sense. So, while they're trying to find Jack, his dad, and his sister, they pull up to a bunch of backpackers picking strawberries. And the backpackers introduce themselves. One of them says they're from Argentina, and the other one says he's from France. That's the Australian version. In the Disney Plus version, for some reason, the second one doesn't say he's from France. He says we're backpackers. And I don't understand why they changed that. It makes no sense. I really don't know why this was changed. Did they just not want American viewers to know that this guy's from France? I don't think there's a consensus anywhere as to why this was changed. No one has been able to figure it out, but yeah. Explorers is a nice one. I mean, it's got Jack in it, and Jack is one of my favorite of the child characters, so I'm definitely gonna put it higher up on this. Probably right there in between Perfect and Obstacle Course. It's a good one. Phones. This was an episode that you can very much tell was written after the COVID outbreak. And you'll see why. Grandpa Moore is visiting, and the kids are playing restaurant. However, Grandpa Moore is out of touch with technology, and the way the kids are playing it is that they're doing it like an online order thing, which is basically what happened to the world once COVID hit. Everything turned to online ordering. But Moore hasn't understood the internet and doesn't understand the game that well. But yeah, the picture of the crocodile in the thing is just near the end of it, he comes up with a fun little app to catch a crocodile by putting a crocodile in the play in the um carrier that Bingo has to carry over his food. And so then he creates an app to catch the crocodile. It's an okay one. I'd probably put it right here. It's probably right there. It's okay. It's not bad. It's okay. It's okay. Pavlova. Bingo really wants to eat some pavlova, so the kids play cafe, but Bandit tries to stop them because Chili said no, you can't have pavlova. And Bingo's whole thing throughout the episode is that it's not that she doesn't want to eat the food that Chili tried to give her, it's that she doesn't like how Chili is making her eat it, as opposed to letting her decide. But yeah, Bandit speaks French throughout most of the episode, and his translations are just so funny. I think he says bonjour like multiple times in the episode. And like, yeah, it makes no sense why he's saying that, because he just says that over and over and over again, and all he's saying is hello. I don't understand. It's a fun one though. Probably I'd actually put it better than, yeah, I'll put it right there in between Mini Bluey and Promises. It's a fun one. This is an interesting one. Rain. It's raining, and all Bluey wants to do is block the rain path from going down their sidewalk. Meanwhile, Chili is getting upset that Bluey keeps running into the house with like wet feet and muddy feet. And she doesn't like it. Now, what's strange about this episode is that there's only 9 words spoken throughout the entire episode. And it's only in the opening seconds of the episode. The rest of the episode is completely instrumental. And the song they use for it, they use 2 different songs, and they're really good songs. I think the full songs as well as the one that has spoken words, because it is a song. It was the instrumental version of a song that they made, and then there was a spoken word one that they made for the Bluey album, Dance Mode. But yeah, it's a strange one because it's almost entirely just silence, but with a background track. It kind of reminds me of other episodes. It kind of reminds me of different episodes of the show where it's like there's not much talking. It's like you're basically getting the sense of the episode through just viewing it, not through hearing what characters have to say. And it is a nice one. I will say I do like this episode. At first, when I first watched this, I was kind of iffy on it, but I think it has definitely grown to be probably in the like it, in my opinion. I do like this episode. It's a good one. And it is an episode that I would definitely recommend to people watching. I mean, if you don't want to hear the Australian accents, there you go. Don't have to hear any of them. Except for like the first 9 seconds. The first 9 words. Pizza Girls. Bluey, Bingo, Muffin, and Socks are trying to play pizza delivery, but Bluey doesn't like her old car that she has called Pedally, and Muffin has a better car, a remote control car. And yeah, the episode's sort of like message at the end of it is kind of like Bluey learns to accept what she has, because there's a lot of memories in her little car that she uses her legs to walk around. It's kind of like Fred Flintstone. um, Yeah, it's okay though. I'd probably put it. I'd probably put it really low if not for the fact that both Muffin, Socks, and Stripe are in this episode, so it's definitely getting moved to right here in the It's Okay. It would probably be lower if none of those characters were in it. If it was just one of those episodes where the family was playing games. Driving is our next episode with censorship. Bluey wants to play driving with Chili, but Chili has an important phone call. Later in the episode, after Chili starts to leave for the first time because all Bluey wants to do is just drive around, and she feels like she can't do it without a purpose, Bluey comes up with this cat doll named Agatha who gives them a threat to go get almond milk instead of cow's milk. Hold on. In the Australian version, she threatens them by telling Bluey that if they don't get back in 5 minutes, she'll pee on Bluey's curtains. In the Disney Plus version, it's just that she'll scratch up Bluey's curtains. Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird censorship, but it's fine. And this episode itself is just fine. Although I do like a lot of the musical tracks in it. I probably would put it just above Chest. Right there. Just above Chest. Tina, the kids are upset about their parents telling them what to do, so invent an imaginary friend who is taller than the parents to rule over them. And chaos ensues as Tina just becomes too much for the parents. And there's a so funny scene near the end of it where after they knock Tina to the ground, they pick her up and throw her into the back of their car and throw her in the trunk of their car. And as they're doing that, Wendy is watching them from her yard, and they just turn to her and they're all like, "You didn't see anything," and she's like, "Ah!" Like she runs away in fear, and it's so funny. It's such a funny episode. It's such a funny part. I'd probably put this up really high of an episode. Probably, um, hmm, probably better than, yeah, probably right behind Explorers in between Obstacle Course. Whale watching. After a New Year's party, the parents are implied to be hungover, but the kids want to go on a whale watching trip with them in their house. It's another game episode. But what I love about this episode is that, yeah, the parents are very clearly hungover from the New Year's party. Like, that's just something that you never think like a kid's show would do. But yeah, they do that. They do that. This episode doesn't have censorship, but I want to mention that there is a voiceover character played by Natalie Portman, who plays Padme from the Star Wars movies. One of the famous voice actors that I'm talking about in this series of reviews. We'll talk about another one later down the line. Well, watching's okay though. I probably would put it right here in between bedroom and driving. It's a fine one, in my opinion. Family meeting. Yeah, we're just going to get the censorship out of the way. For the longest time, this episode was just completely removed from Disney Plus due to all of the toilet humor in this episode. Because the whole premise of the episode is that the family has a meeting to decide whether or not Bandit fluffied in Bluey's face, which is just another word of saying that he farted in her face. Yeah, so this one's getting a little bit low. just because of the toilet humor. I do actually kind of like the episode a little bit, but the toilet humor is just not one of my favorites. This episode, like I said, the censorship part, it was completely removed from Disney Plus for the longest time. And then I think last year or earlier this year, I can't remember which, Disney Plus finally added it back alongside one of the part 2 episodes, Smoochy Kiss, which was weird. Smoochy Kiss is another gross out sort of episode, which I would have thought Disney Plus would have just entirely censored that episode in multiple ways, but they didn't censor anything about it, and they never censored anything about Family Meeting when they put it on Disney Plus. But yeah, that's the censorship part. It was completely removed for the longest time. Very Facey Talk, another censorship episode. We'll get to that in a second. Bluey, Bingo, Muffin, and Socks are having a FaceTime call, but Muffin won't share with Socks and proceeds to get chased around the house by Stripe when she won't listen to him. The censorship comes in later in the episode, and this was actually one that was fixed. But in the Australian version, when Muffin is running through the bathroom, you can see Trixie on the toilet. When this originally came out on Disney Plus, this scene was cropped out in a way so you only see like a close-up of Muffin's face. They changed this, I don't know when, but they changed this back to the Australian version, which just makes me wonder why it was removed in the first place. This, like Rain, was one of the episodes at first that I was kind of iffy about on my first viewing. But yeah, I'm putting it up in the like it. I like this episode. It is better than Rain, in my opinion, though. So, actually, I'm going to put this, if I can get the Born Yesterday to move. Oh, this website. I'm going to put it right there in Born, right before Born Yesterday as my favorite of the like it so far. Ragdoll. The kids find money and want to buy ice cream. But it's Bandit's money, so Bandit makes them work for it by playing Ragdoll. He basically becomes immovable and forces the kids to carry him around the house to the car. And then Wendy shows up later in the episode, and it's funny. And it's funny. She really grew into an amazing character in season 3. Later episode we'll talk about is probably the best episode of both her and her daughter, Judo. We'll talk about that one later, though. But yeah, it's a fun one. I like this episode. This one is definitely going to go in the like-it's. Probably better than Rain and Born Yesterday, but I think Facey Talk is better than it so far. Yeah. By the way, we're not done with the censorship entirely just yet, but Facey Talk is the last censored episode of part 1 of season 3. Part 3 of season 3 has the last censorship, which we'll talk about that when we get there. Fairy Tale. The last one of part 1. Bandit tells a fairy tale to the kids about his past where he was being mean to his little brother Stripe, but then he gets jinxed by his older brother Radley and can't talk. And then basically gets tortured throughout the day. And we get to see Grandpa Bob come back. He has a different voice actor because he has a different look. Stop it, phone. But yeah, it's a really good episode, and it's a really good way to end off part 1. And at the end of it, it's implied that this is how Chili and Bandit met each other, although it is much up to debate with both of them, as well as they also talked about how they met back in the show. So it's a weird one. But this one's definitely going up into the highest of It's Okay. Actually, you know what? No. I find this one actually right there in the like it. It is a good episode. I like this episode a lot. And it's one I wouldn't mind to visit again and again and again. Heading into part 2, we have musical statues. The whole family is out of whack, so Chili has them playing musical statues, which, fun fact, I didn't actually learn this until I watched someone review this episode, but the opening sequence of every episode, the theme song, the family is actually playing musical statues. But yeah, the family here in this episode all play musical statues to get out of their funk, and it's a fun one. There's a lot of music in this episode, and a lot of good music. I'd probably put it somewhere right here in between Obstacle Course and Tina. It's a good one. I do like it a lot. Next up, stories. Indy, Winton, and Calypso tell the story of Indy trying to make a horse out of beeswax, but she keeps failing. Also in the story, Winton has huge muscles. That just happens. He can also turn into a car. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this episode. And for the final thing of it, there is actually a character voiced. The third big celebrity appearance we're going to be talking about. There's a character voiced by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who plays one of the characters. He plays whoever is Gizmo Duck from DuckTales, the reboot. I can't remember what the name is. Fenton Crackshell, I think is his name. But yeah, he plays Major Tom here, and he's a good voice. I like his voice. Except for the fact, though, that this episode is kind of weaker, in my opinion. I'd probably say Chest is worse than it, but that's as far as it's going to get. Up, in my opinion. Oh, puppets. Oh, you're going straight into the love it. Probably... Yeah, you're going to go right next to you. Actually, you know what? No, I think that's good to keep it where it is. So in this episode, Unicorse returns and he tries his best to impress Chili to go on a date with him. Until he learns that he's a puppet and has an existential crisis. And then, proceeds to believe he's a nobody. And then eventually he gets over it with the help of the family. And then the most famous part about this episode is the ending. After that whole scene where he gets over it, Bluey goes to bed, and Unicorse is like, well, how can you be sure you're not a puppet? And then Bluey's like, that's silly. And then Bluey goes to sleep, and then it proceeds to pan out and show how an episode of Bluey is animated, in which an animator animates the next scene, the final scene of the episode, and it's such a really cool fourth wall break. This episode being the return of Unicorse, as well as that fourth wall break, is definitely why I love it so much. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to pick up. Turtle Boy! Bingo goes to the park and finds a little turtle toy that used to belong to someone, and her and a deaf kid end up playing with the toy. Not together. This is the first episode that has a deaf character. His name is Dougie, I think. But yeah, it goes from Bingo playing with the toy to Dougie playing with it, and then the next day Bingo, and then Dougie, and etc., etc., etc. This episode is one of my weaker ones, in my opinion. I do like the representation here of the Madigan Death character, but the fact that it just kind of feels forced, and like they don't do anything with it other than like, oh, he's deaf. Oh yeah, let's just have episode about turtle. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong in saying that. Probably, like, I guess they are trying to. I guess it makes sense they treat it as normal because a disability is just. It's a Darman quote. I'm thinking of a Darman quote. A disability is a different ability. Yeah. I don't know. This episode just was kind of weaker to me. Oh, I didn't think we'd get here for a while. Onesies, you very much are going in the love it. Chili's sister Brandy comes for a visit and gives the kids onesies, but Bingo is a little bit crazy with her cheetah onesie and goes on the attack, attacking the whole family. And oh boy, this episode is just a kick to your emotions. In the episode, um, in the episode, I can't think. I literally can't think. In the episode, after Brandy gets tackled by Bingo, Chili and Bluey run off, and Bluey asks why in the world does Brandy not come over often, and why does she want to leave all of a sudden? And it's heavily implied that Brandy is infertile. She can't have kids. And the reason she doesn't come over is because she has a hard time seeing her sister have a family when she really can't have one of her own, albeit adoption is a thing. She just can't really have one of her own. And it just hurts. It hurts to watch that scene. It's just like so sad. But yeah, I love this episode. It's up there as one of the best episodes of Bluey of all time. Tradies, a couple of workers come to the house. I guess landscapers, they're called tradies. Come to the house to put in a fish pond, which is actually a reference all the way back in the season 2 episode Stump Fest, where Chili wants Bandit to remove the stumps because she wants to put in a fish pond. Well, in this episode, she finally gets it done. The kids end up spying on the tradies as they put in the fish pond and learn about them. It's a nice one. I'd probably put it probably put it right here between musical statues and of course. It's a nice one. It's not a really like it episode, but it's a nice one. It's a nice one. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for putting this episode better than onesies, but Granny Mobile is my favorite episode of part 2 of Bluey. And I'll tell you why. Let me get to the part. In this episode, the grannies return as Bluey, Bingo, and Muffin play grannies with Doreen's husband's Granny Mobile. But chaos ensues when a grouchy granny, a real grouchy granny, because Muffin's acting as a grouchy granny in this episode, but chaos ensues when a real grouchy granny comes and tries to buy the Granny Mobile. And the part that makes this episode my favorite of part 2 is that, and it sounds so weird out of context, but Muffin literally scams $1,336 out of an old lady. So originally, they were selling the Granny Mobile for $300, but the Granny pestered Doreen into selling it for $100. So she gave Doreen the $100 and then tried to get Muffin to get off the Granny Mobile, but Muffin kept on taking it farther and farther until eventually she paid $1,200 for it. And then Muffin also had her pay for 18 lollies, which made up to $36. So on top of the $100 that I don't think we ever see Doreen give back to the old lady. Yeah, Muffin scammed $1,336 out of a grandma, and it's just hilarious. It's the funnest. It is probably the funniest scene in Bluey, in my opinion. I love it so much, and it's my favorite of part 2. Space, Mackenzie, or different themes. Rusty and Jack play space explorers, but Mackenzie keeps running off during the game. And this episode deals with abandonment issues. There's a flashback scene in the episode where Mackenzie is going down a slide as a little baby. Not a baby, he's a toddler. But then he ends up out of the slide, but his mom's not there, and he gets afraid. He thinks his mom has abandoned him. But yeah, it turns out he just got mixed up in the slide, and his mom is still there, just not at the end of the slide. And apparently this traumatized him. And he's been dealing with that since. And it's a nice episode. I definitely put this one higher up in the like it. I'd probably would put it. Actually, you know what? If I can get it to move. I hate this website. Come on, it was right there. There. I'm gonna put it above Facey Talk. It is my favorite. It is one of the best episodes of the series. It's got a nice message, and I love it. Smoochie Kiss, the second gross out episode of season 3. The kids try to protect Bandit from Chili after Chili comments on some of the things that Bandit does that she doesn't particularly like. However, they come to learn that Bandit is just disgusting. And then they switch goals to try to protect Chili from Bandit because Bandit's disgusting. This episode was put on Disney Plus alongside Family Meeting and was not censored. This confused me. This was a surprise to me, honestly. It didn't confuse me. It was just like, wow, I thought they would censor this episode, but they didn't. But yeah, it's just got a lot of dirty talk. I'm gonna put Eat lower. Probably right there, in between Housework and Pizza Girls. It's a lower episode, in my opinion. Dirt. Judo wants to play in the dirt alongside Bluey and Bingo, but her mom tells her not to get dirty. And this is the episode I was talking about that is the best episode for both Wendy and Judo. As the two bond in this episode, near the end of it, Judo keeps wanting to play in the dirt but doesn't want to get dirty because her mom told her not to. But when her mom comes over and sees them playing in the dirt, she allows Judo to do so because yeah, it takes a while for her to get Judo clean, but she'd rather Judo to be happy than to not be. But Judo gets upset and walks off because she doesn't want to have to make her mom clean her because it takes forever to do so. So in a surprise twist, the most wholesome moment out of Wendy, in order to I don't know why she does this, but I guess she does it to show off to Judo. She cuts her hair to make her hair shorter. So then Judo wants to do it and cuts her hair, and the duo basically grow here, and then Judo gets to play in the dirt like she wanted to, and it's a nice moment for both of them. I would put this right here, right after Space. It's a good one. And the final episode of part 2, The Decider. The family, alongside Pat's family, are watching a big rugby game But Pat's family is split in two as Janelle comes from a different part of the country and so supports the opposing team of Pat. And their son Chucky has to decide which team he wants to support. And this one was kind of weak in my opinion, but I did love how all out Bandit went with supporting his team, to where he dressed up. He entirely painted his fur maroon color at the start, and at the ending he painted his fur gold and green, and it was so funny how he did that. But this one's lower in my opinion. It is probably the weakest one out of part 2. It's not terrible, it's just it didn't vibe with me. And now for part 3. Cubby. The kids create a giant blanket and cushion fort for their stuffed doll child Kim Jim, but the fort ends up getting a little too big and they get lost in it. And you know what? I hate to say it, but it's another weak one. This episode was released early in Russia because I think the Disney Channel went out in that country, and then just suddenly, like, I guess dropping their backlog, they dropped this episode. So this episode was very much shown off in Russian before it came out in Australia. And it didn't look appealing to me. I do like some of the music in it, but it's just an okay one in my opinion. I'd probably put it as the worst so far, but it's staying in the it's okay, because there is an episode in season 3 that I don't like. And we'll get to that. But now, for the last censored episode of this exercise, Bandit tries to exercise before work, but the kids get caught up in his exercise routine. The part that was censored, not just for the probably an upcoming Disney Plus release, but for every future showing of the episode. The part that was censored was the first minute of the episode. They completely cut that from the official release now from the episode. In the first minute of the episode, people complained that it sort of had like body shaming, where Bandit was upset that he was fat. And a lot of people did not like that and complained about it. And I guess Ludo Studios decided to just cut that from the episode, which I will say, if you watch the episode, it makes it a little weird. It's a little bit of a weird one, because the first minute cuts out Bluey and Bingo learning about jobs and then wanting to make a job of their own. But I understand why the first minute got cut. It's cut from the official Australian version, and it's going to be cut for international releases. But yeah, for this episode, I probably would put it I did like this episode a lot. So I'd probably put it really higher up. I'll probably put it right here in front of Pavlova. Yeah. Relax. Chili wants to relax on the beach during their family's vacation, but the kids just want to check out their hotel room. This is the first of a 3-part episode where the kids are off on vacation to the beach. And yeah, Chili's trying to relax, and there's a scene at the end where after Chili fails to relax, she gets hugged by Bandit, and she's like, I don't know how to relax, and she kind of gets upset about it, but then she watches the kids relaxing, where They're literally just playing with a recliner chair where they're smacking themselves in the butt and flying in the air, and it's just so. It's just kids are strange sometimes. Kids are definitely strange. This is a good one though. I'd probably put it right around here in between tradies and obstacle course. Stick bird. At the beach, Bingo finds a stick that looks like a bird's head and creates a bird out of it, but then some kids steal the stick and Bingo gets upset. This episode has an overall running message that something you put out into the world, if you put something out into the world, it's no longer yours, and that can be upsetting. And this episode strangely has Bandit like zoning off throughout most of it, and it's implied that he put something out into the world that he's lost control of, and now he's upset. He's upset about it, and it's making him upset. And yeah, that's the whole thing of the episode, is that he put something out into the world and it's upset him, and it's never explained what, but it was explained in the podcast after the episode that that's what he was upset. That's the whole message of the episode, and it's a good one. It's better than Relax, probably better than Tradies, but I'd put it right there. Show and Tell is going immediately like it. I'd probably put it right. Um, Probably right here. So, Show and Tell. The kids, Bingo is preparing to do show and tell in her classroom with a crab claw that she got from the beach. Meanwhile, in a repeat lesson from Tina, Bluey is upset that Vanna keeps bossing her around. And the fun part about this is that the episode is called Show and Tell. It barely deals with Bingo upset about her show and tell presentation. But the thing that's interesting about this episode, which is one reason I like it a lot, is that there's an overarching message that Bandit is doing here, where he's sort of playing show and tell with Bluey, showing her, telling her why he's only telling her to do things because it's good for her, but also showing her why it's good for her by deliberately ignoring the sat nav on the way to a house to pick up a surfboard and then getting lost. And it's really good. It's a really meta sort of message. Like the episode was called Show and Tell, and like you'd think it's about Bingo's show and tell presentation, but no, it's like literally Bandit showing and telling Bluey about why the reason why he tells her to do things. And it's a good one. I put it in the like it. I really do like the episode. And now, this has been a long time coming, but this is my favorite episode of Bluey, Dragon. This episode, when it was announced as part of the 10 episodes, originally there were 9, but then they extended it with Cricket, part of the 10 episodes that were airing recently. This episode was the one I was looking forward to the most, and they actually moved it up in order to have it air on Mother's Day. This episode is my favorite episode of the show in its entirety. Basically, the family is telling the story of fighting a dragon, but they're doing it in this like drawn style where like every character is drawing something. Is it's kind of like the episode Escape, but every character has their own art style. Bandits is kind of like cruddy. Bingo's is amazing. I love Bingo's art style. Bluey's is kind of like in between. Chili and Bandit, and then Chili's is like really good. She's really good at drawing. And the part that makes this my favorite, not just because it's not the parts that make it my favorite are the whole episode of being in the drawing style. I like it. The dragon story is good. Bingo's drawing style is the best. I love how chaotic her drawing style is. But midway through the episode, we get a flashback scene where we see Chili's mom for the first time. And we learn why Chili is so good at drawing. Because basically, she thought she was terrible at it because she couldn't draw exactly like she thought, like she wanted to. But then her mom basically told her that her drawings are good enough for a 7-year-old and basically encouraged her to keep going and to never give up. And that's how she became so good at drawing. And yeah, this episode is just my favorite of the series. I love it so much. It's got a good message. It's got a great animation style. And this originally my favorite episode was Curry Quest because of all the times it made me cry. This one didn't make me cry as much, but it really resonated with me, I guess. It was a good one, and this would probably be the episode I would recommend first to anyone getting into the show. I love Dragon. It is a good episode. It is a great one, and I'd recommend watching it for yourself. It's like the one episode so far that I've said, you should watch it yourself. Yeah, it's a good episode. I mean, it's kind of hard. It's only aired in Australia. You have to get like a VPN in order to watch it. But yeah, it's a good episode. Immediately, we follow that up with my least favorite episode of the entire series, Wild Girls. Oh my gosh, I hate this episode so much. I'm just thinking about this as I was doing this. I just immediately was thinking, like, yeah, I get a wholesome talk about my favorite episode of the entire series, and then immediately just dive down into the worst of the series with Wild Girls. So, Coco, Indy, and Chloe are playing a game of Wild Girls, but Indy wants to also play another game, but Coco just doesn't like to change things and like decides to just kind of she's like trying to like force Indy to play the game with her, even though Indy did kind of agree to her first. Let me tell you, Coco is my least favorite character of the entire series. I don't like her. So, an whole episode focused around her is never one that I enjoy. This is my least favorite episode of the series. It is the only one that I dread watching out of the entirety of the series. I don't like it. If I had to recommend an episode to skip, it'd be that one. You know what? Actually, you know what? Hold on 1 second. There we go. There we go. And good on you, Wow Girls. You get your own little section because you're the worst episode of the entire show. Let's move on. TV show is one. We're getting back into episodes that I really do love. At the Chemist, Bluey, Bingo, the Terriers, and Winton are playing a game on the television screens, trying to get to Coco, who's sick and getting medicine. And it's so fun. The song that plays through the episode is really amazing. The kids using the TVs to play around is fun. And the reason they're at the Chemist, which is kind of like a pharmacy sort of place, is that Bandit is feeling old, so he wants to get medicine in order to feel young again. And yeah, they go there, and then he watches the kids dance on the TV once they get together with Coco. and he smiles and dances along with them. And I think Bandit kind of just wants to feel like a kid again. Sometimes he's felt embarrassed to play along with the kids in public, but you know what? This episode, he was really happy to, and does join along in the game. I'm putting this one in a love it. Um, man, this section is huge. Um, Definitely lower though. Probably right after Puppet. Actually, you know what? This one's probably better than Puppets, but not better than Unicorse. But it is still in the love it. And let me tell you, the last two episodes are also going into love it. But yeah, Slide, an episode that was originally supposed to be part of season 2. Bingo and Leela play on the water slide that Bandit buys, but they keep running into problems as bugs keep on crawling on the slide, and they don't want to kill them. And it's just a fun episode of the two playing together. I don't know why, but I really like Bingo and Leela's friendship. The fact that they met, just complete happenstance meeting, and then became such good friends, was just fun. And then, yeah, they're hanging out together here, and they're playing on the water slide, and they're just having fun. And I don't know why, but I just love this episode so much. I'm putting it in the love it, probably right around here, in between Past the Parcel and Sheepdog, but it's a good episode. This episode was originally supposed to be a part of season 2. In fact, there's an animatic for the episode that was leaked of like the early version of the episode, but they waited until season 3 to drop it. I don't know why. But finally, we get to the tie for the highest rated episode of Bluey, Cricket. This episode was a surprise episode to come out, as originally only the episodes Cubby through Slide were scheduled to come out between the months of April and June. But then, the week after the airing of Slide, it was revealed in a commercial that Cricket would be coming out. And this was one of the episodes that I was kind of just like, yeah, I'll watch it. It's a Bluey episode, I'll watch it. But somehow, this episode blew my expectations out of the water. And I think it blew everyone's expectations out of the water, because it is tied right now alongside Sleepy Time for the highest rated episode of the show. This episode, the parents and kids are playing a game of cricket at a kid's birthday party, and they're trying to bowl Rusty out. But Rusty's good at cricket, and they can't seem to get him out. And the whole story is told as Bandit is narrating the story of how Rusty got so good at cricket from learning how to control the ball so it won't like knock into his kitchen, to learning how to play on rough terrain, to learning how to deal with, you know, characters such as another character they introduced in this episode, Tiny, who like are really terrifying. And this is a good episode. This is really good. Really, really good. I'd probably would put it right here. Right in third. It's a good episode. And what makes it even better is that near the end of it, Rusty gets a letter from his dad, who is off in the war. And we actually see Rusty's dad from a front view for the first time. This is his second episode appearing. He appears in the episode Army. But yeah, we get a letter from the dad who's off in the army, and his dad helps Rusty. Rusty's dad helps him get confident in his cricket game, and he's able to beat Tiny. And then the episode, as if it couldn't get any better, the episode ends with Rusty knocking a bowl to his sister so his sister can catch it, because that's all she wanted to do for the longest time. And then it just keeps getting better. Rusty walks off the field, and then it cuts to a flash forward where Rusty's older self is fist bumping his younger self as he runs off into a professional cricket tournament game. This episode just hits you with so many good things, and I can understand why it's tied for the highest rated episode. But yeah, I like it a lot. It's definitely number 3 of season 3. But that is my ranking for the season, with for the first time an episode getting the treatment of the worst episode in the show, and that being Wild Girls. I don't want to talk about that episode. And then my favorite episode of the series, not just of season 3, but of the entire series, is of course Dragon. This one ended up a lot longer than I thought it would, given the fact that there was less episodes. I might add to this when the next 3 episodes drop sometime. I don't know when they're going to drop, but yeah, that's it for this one. Enjoy the episode's musical statues through the Decider on Disney Plus, and I'll see you guys next time.